Hello beautiful people, welcome back to another video. So this is part 3 of my PA school journey, everything that I did pretty much to get here to this point. If you want to get caught up, kind of get a little bit of the backstory a little bit more, I would suggest you go watch part 1 and part 2. So we're going to get right on into it. I think I left off with me wanting to take the MCAT, took the MCAT, and going to med tech school, worked in that career field for 3 years, and here I am. Basically talked about me juggling between, do I want to be a nurse practitioner, do I want to be a midwife, do I want to go to PA school. Juggled both of those for about a couple of months, actually doing some hard research to see what I can actually see myself doing. And then I ultimately, again, decided to become a PA, a physician assistant or physician associate now, because just the more things that I would be able to do, I wouldn't be limited and have to go back to school again. No need for re-education. If I wanted to jump to go to surgery versus working in women's health versus family medicine, I can do all of that without having to go back to school, get another certificate or anything like that, in which you would have to do pretty much for a physician or even a nurse practitioner. So the cycle never fails for me. I mean, what am I, insane at this point? Because again, I applied to PA school. The first time I applied 2 times total, got in on my second time, obviously. Yeah, but the first time I applied to 15 plus schools. I mean, it's like a cycle. It's a cycle for me. I don't know. But anyway, I got one interview out of all those 15 schools. I did get one interview at Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. So I went to that interview. The interview went okay for the most part. I did get a little nervous because that one did have like one-on-one interviews mixed in with it. And I just remember there was one, I think was she like the director? She was a doctor. I think she was just like the medical doctor, which each program has some type of doctor that's over the entire program, like a physician. If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on that. But I had my interview with her and she was so intimidating. I don't know if I was just nervous. I don't know what it was, but I was just like fumbling over my words. Like, she was asking questions that I wasn't prepared for, and I kind of like tried to think of something on the spot, which obviously did not work in my favor. But I mean, I did get waitlisted. I basically never heard back from them. I reached out to kind of see what's the status, how many people are in front of me, just like get more information. Child, them schools ain't trying to give you no information. I can't remember what they told me, but it was kind of like a beating around the bush, like, we still are deciding kind of thing. I can't even remember, but needless to say, because that was like when I called and reached out to them, I feel like it was like March or April. I had that interview in November. It was like one of the first interviews that they were having. I had it in November and hadn't heard anything back. So I reached out to them in March or April because I'm like, the new cycle starts in May, I think. April, May, sometime around that. It was starting very soon after because I'm like, well, bruh, if I'm not going to get in, let me know so I can go ahead and apply to these other schools. I don't want to waste money to apply to more schools if I already have a seat, because that program actually started in June, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I didn't get in. Before that first interview, I did not do any like mock interviews. I basically just read online tips and tricks and kind of listened to other people's interviews on YouTube, things like that, or other people's mock interviews, because there are some YouTube channels, I do not remember the name. If I can remember the name or find the name of who it is, then I'll link it below. I just kind of did like a lot of self-study, and like I said, the interview, it went good overall, but I feel like after that interview, I really was defeated because I think she was my first. I had like 2 or 3 like small one-on-ones, and she was my first one. That made me pretty much kind of like down for my next couple that came after her. Like I wanted to cry, child. And I am a terrible public speaker. Like just speaking to other people who I'm not familiar with, like voice shaking, palms sweaty, tears forming. It's that bad. Like I do not like talking in front of people. And so I'm coming out of my comfort zone just a little bit more. But during that time, I feel like it really defeated me. But I still got waitlisted. So that was a happy point for me. So I went ahead to apply again for a second cycle, but this time I did things a little differently. Okay, y'all. After pharmacy school applications and med school applications and med tech school application and all of that, like I wasn't trying to, I was like, okay, Shaniqua, you need to figure this out because you're getting older. You know, you're trying to find a career for yourself. You really need to boggle it down and figure out what you need to do to get to where you need to be. So I went to, it's a PAEA, I believe, PAEA, Physician Assistant Educational something. But I went to like their informationals because that's where a lot of schools come in and they kind of have like breakout sessions and you can go to like different schools, informative meetings kind of things, kind of learn more about the school. So I actually went to that this time. I actually linked with one of the schools. I talked to one of the directors. Like she messaged me separately because I was living in Memphis at the time and she lived in Memphis. And so we connected. We had a great conversation. And this time I also did a mock interview with the PAC, the physician assistant, like the Black community. They're on Facebook and Instagram. And so I joined that community. I actually did a mock interview. I counted my first interview with Morehouse basically as a mock interview because it was an interview. I just wasn't prepared for it. But I did a mock interview too, and that was just absolutely phenomenal in ways that basically they went over. Did they go over my personal statement? I can't remember if they went over my personal statement or not. They have packages or, you know, different things that you can purchase inexpensive. They're not expensive at all. But you can have personal statement reviews, you can have mock interviews, and you can have, you know, if you need a second one, like just different things that they offer for persons of color because, as you know, we're less than 4% of, well, Black people in general, we're less than 4% of physician assistants. And then you have other nationalities who are also at a lower, who are also underrepresented. Like anybody, any person of color, Black or brown, can basically join this group, or even advocates. If I'm not mistaken, I think advocates can also be a part of this group. And just like normalizing African Americans and persons of colors in this field and kind of raising that bar for us and giving us access and better opportunities in this field. So I did a mock interview with the PAC and that was absolutely amazing because it pointed out my flaws and things that I wasn't really aware of and gave me tips and tricks for my interview. So basically, the director that I said that I was talking to at that informational, I got an interview at that school. It's Lincoln Memorial University. They have two schools that they're at. Two locations, Harrogate, Tennessee, and then also Knoxville, Tennessee. I did not even apply to the Harrogate location. Great school, but I have a family and my family was moving with me, and Harrogate there's not really much to do around there. It's literally grass and trees. So I'm like, I'm not going to drag my family hours away across to some other completely different city, a new city, and have nothing to do. That would not be fair. So I applied to the Knoxville location, and it was their first year opening. So I got accepted, and I am a physician assistant who graduated from Lincoln Memorial University, Knoxville, Tennessee, inaugural class. The first and only Black PA that graduated from there. But y'all, that's another story for another day. I mean, history. I should be on a wall. I see it. I see it. So the second time that I applied, I only applied to 5 or 6 schools. And I finally got it right. Like, I finally researched everything about the school and all the prereqs and did what I was supposed to do as far as not assuming someone would take me because of the background that I have. I literally, like, if the education wasn't there, shadowing hours, everything, if it wasn't there, I did not apply. 5 or 6 schools is all I applied to, and I got an interview at one, got accepted at that one. And at this interview, y'all, when I tell you, I have never been more comfortable. Like, I think it was the preparation that I had, the mock interviews that I had. Like, I was so comfortable, and that's really pretty much all that it was I was myself. I wasn't nervous. I went in there as myself, excited to be there, calm. I was comfortable. Was I nervous on the inside? Absolutely, but I didn't let that project on the outside, and I didn't let that hold me down or hold me back or cause me to be nervous as my projected self. I think that's really one of the parts that helped me, because they had a part of the interview, they had some little paper thing where I had to do like shapes of something or what this plus this equals what. They weren't numbers, it was shapes. I'm like, what is this? But and then they had some that were like question styles, and actually questions that I prepared for. So I prepared for these questions, but they asked them on a piece of paper rather than interview style, and I was able to like write out, I think it was like 2 questions. We wrote out like paragraphs of whatever those 2 questions was, like, you know, a page paper or something like that, 1 or 2 paragraphs. But we also still had individual interviews, 1 to 2 people. But it was, yeah, it was so comfortable. And I think it was the fact that they were probably nervous and I was nervous on the inside, not on the outside. But like, they were excited, I was excited, because we were their first group. It was the first interview that they had. I keep getting these first interviews. It was the first interview of PAs that they had, the very first one. And I had my interview in November 2019. It is so crazy because the Morehouse interview, I had that interview, went to the Dominican Republic, like literally was getting on a plane right after that to go to the DR. And then the LMU interview, had that interview, literally got on a plane to go to Dubai. There's something about interviews and trips. Had my interview in November, got accepted very shortly after, 1 to 2 months after. Here I am. I graduated. I went through that program. Ups and downs are sure to come. You best believe it. Yeah, I graduated December 22, and now I am working. I live in Texas now. I moved to Texas. It's my first job from Knoxville, and it's only up from here. All right, so if you like what you hear, if you want to hear more, you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or anything you just want to hear more of, write it down below. Let me know what you want to hear, what you want to see from me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye for now.